let me get in Geoff Dennis, independent emerging markets commentator, to explain and understand for all of us what really is going on. Geoff, very good morning to you from Mumbai, where we're sitting. Okay, let's start from the beginning of this particular timeline. What China has done. How do you see it, and what is going to be the impact there?
Well, I think China holds a lot of the cards in terms of trade with the US as far as we're concerned. And that is particularly the case, I think, with the rare earth exports. And I think that China putting potential curbs on rare earth exports was just an attempt, I think, for China to maintain control of those in what is a very hostile global environment. Now, I suspect that although President Trump is saying that President Xi had a bad day, I think we got to remember that China always looks at the long term, works on a long-term strategy, and it's trying to basically control exports of all sorts of products, most recently, of course, rare earths. And I think Trump probably overreacted to those China new curbs on rare earths. And so we had this big sell-off on Friday. You know, we've seen this before. It was a whiff of what we had in April.
Geoff, the question is if China, which then subsequently has given one small explanation that the export controls is not a full export ban, and applications that meet regulations will be approved, and then subsequently Donald Trump saying that, hey, you know, backtracking as well, and that's led to US futures being in the green as well. So is it business as usual now, considering that it is a template that we visited in the past? There's something that happens on Friday, over the weekend both sides kind of reconcile, and then things move to business as usual. Do you think we've reached that stage as yet?
I think it probably is business as usual. I mean, I think the rare earth situation is particularly sensitive. So we would need to see what China actually does in practice on this. And maybe there's some, maybe there's some exceptions, or it's a licensing situation rather than a full curb. But I think the truth is that this is a taco situation once again. Trump always chickens out. He lashed out on Friday with this threat of 100% tariffs. He probably realized over the weekend that this was not a great idea, and Xi didn't have a bad day, despite the fact that he said so. And I think, therefore, US backtracking on this, which looks to be what's going to happen, is almost inevitably going to be the case, because at the end of the day, the US is an enormous trade deficit with China, and China holds most of the cards. And so I think Trump does not want to end up in a situation where we really begin to see this trade war heighten again. Now, markets generally, since the debacle in April, have really not focused that much, except in the very short term, on tariff announcements. And of course, this was a particularly severe situation last Friday. But again, I think it's not going to react for long. And I think what the futures are doing here is probably indicative of the fact that we're going to try to put this in the rearview mirror again. And I think that the US and China will negotiate on this, and who knows what will come out of that. But to see Trump putting 100% extra tariffs on China on November 1, I think is not going to happen. It's a taco situation.